Kia ora, it's Lou Ward here, and I'm the host of this episode of Made in New Zealand, where we talk to Kiwi musicians, artists and writers, and this week's guest is the multi-talented, because you tick several boxes there. We'll talk about the writing first, but the musician part also. The multi-talented Marianne Scott.
Thank you, Lou.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So Sparrow is your brand new young, it's not really young adult, it's perhaps a little bit younger than that.
Yes, although I'm not sure. I think it does stride both categories.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, how old am I? 47. I liked it. Great. I'm an old adult and I loved it. So it's your fourth novel. So let's just go right back. Where did your storytelling begin?
I think it began with reading. I think, you know, most writers are keen readers, and I was obsessed with reading. And then I started writing short stories. And then one day I just let the short story not finish. I left it open and full of tension. And I rang my friend and I said, I think I've written a chapter.
Oh, a whole how old would you be then?
Actually, I was quite old. I was old.
Right,
This was the beginning of Snakes and Ladders.
Ah.
So up to then, I'd just been writing short stories and entering them into competitions.
Yep.
And then I just got a hold of my new character, Finn, and off I went.
So that was Snakes and Ladders?
Yep.
So how long ago is that now?
I was just trying to think, do I need to say my age exactly?
No.
No, it was maybe 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure, but I had teenagers at home and I was frightened. I kept thinking I'm never going to be able to keep them safe and out of jail, and I just started writing about an imaginary boy.
Yeah. So you've got 4 boys.
Yes.
And all your protagonists are male.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, and what made you scared for your boys?
They were quite dangerous. They were risk-taking, and they were show-offs, which both categories I sort of fall into. I don't want to get hurt, but I am competitive.
Yeah.
Got no talent, but I'm competitive, and also definitely a bit of a show-off, so I could see myself reflected in their antics. So yeah, I started writing for boys. I love their voices. I like the way they tell stories. They're sort of sparse. So when they tell a joke, they get to the punchline fast, and I do like that.
Sparse, I like that as a word.
And that's how I like to read and to write.
Because that's a question that I find quite interesting, is that, I mean, there's lots of talk about cultural appropriation, and, you know, so how do you, as a woman, write in the male voice? So what is different about that? Yeah,
that's really good. What is cultural appropriation? In a way,
it's not necessarily relevant to this, but
because in a way, as a mother of 4 boys, I just listened to their banter and their chat, and I started to pick up on their phrases and the speed. Like, I could see that if someone told a story and it took too long to tell the story, you know, they would lose that audience.
Yep.
They're pretty critical boys. They'd interrupt or they'd be rude, and I realised if I was going to write, I had to make it punchy.
Yeah.
So I started there, and maybe I like writing from a boy's point of view because they're just so sort of gormless sometimes. They just make such stupid mistakes, and they're so lovable.
I like that. Yeah, so it's quite different. So have you tinkered with writing
for girls
with a female protagonist?
Yeah. Yes, my sister, who's an editor, keeps saying to me, we need strong girls in your books. So she thinks it's fine to keep having the boys as a protagonist as long as they're a strong woman buffering them and challenging them and making them think about what they say, which actually is probably indicative of the boys' lives at school. I remember girls often pulled them up.
Yes, yeah, well, that's our role, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
To pull one another up. Yeah. But that leads us quite neatly into Sparrow, the brand new book. So it's marketed sort of at a 9 to 12, but I do agree that it could go older than that. So Sean is an immigrant from Zimbabwe, and he's struggling a little bit with that immigrant experience. So he meets Mason, who's a friendly kid, and, you know, coming from landlocked Zimbabwe, suddenly goes diving and spearfishing. Yeah.
And also, I think that was that desperation I have seen over the years in kids, if you are lonely. And here was Mason, prepared to be his friend, but, you know, the only proviso really was that he got in and went spearfishing with them, or he was prepared to include him. And so that desperation of being homesick or lonely, often I've felt for kids who have come from other countries. And I've taught the guitar over the years, and I had a few students who were brand new and they found music to be a solace.
And it is another way of meeting people.
And I can remember a boy from Zimbabwe who didn't often look at me. He was so shy, he kept his eyes down and sort of stuttered. And I remember thinking, this is a nightmare for you. Just even being here with me is a nightmare. So how are you managing?
Yeah.
Needless to say, he's just fine.
Good. And he's made a connection. And it
So
might have been
many.
through
He's
his
grown
music
up now.
Yeah.
But in a way, that's where I got my Sean from. I pulled up that little boy from the past who came from Zimbabwe.
Oh, how gorgeous. And Nicole is your strong character. So she's Mason's sister.
Yes.
They are currently motherless. Sean is fatherless, so there's a connection there. But they butt heads straight away with some nasty comments and things that they can't easily come back from.
No.
So, yeah.
It's amazing how sometimes you say something and you might want to stuff those words back inside, but you can't. You know, it's writing or saying that pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah. And that happens in a couple of your novels, really.
Yes, it does, really.
So you've got this situation in Sparrow where they're not communicating clearly, and I'm thinking in Coming Home to Roost, where what's his name? I've forgotten. I'm sorry.
Elliot.
Elliot is
Rooster.
He thinks, the rooster. He thinks his girlfriend is pregnant. She said that she's pregnant, and he is not having he just detaches. So what's the connection there with that?
I think the silence of boys has often, once they've said something, they think they can't take it back, or there's some sort of code of honour amongst them. And the fact that often to talk to them, I would have to work alongside them or take them out into the village for a hot chocolate. In the old days, it was a hot chocolate and a lasagna square. And then they couldn't really argue loudly because we were in public.
Yeah.
So then we could have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like that, I think, over the years, just listening to them talk around the bench, and I'd be working away and they'd be ignoring me, but I would be listening in all the time. So that's where I found a lot of those characters.
Yeah. Ah, that's interesting. So have you had any feedback from the boys' friends?
When the boys were younger, and they were, especially the younger two were still at school, they used to say, "Don't embarrass us, will you, Mum?" So, well, hello, you've embarrassed me now for about 20 years.
Yes, my turn. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So you've got 4 boys, but you're one of 9.
Yes.
And you're all pretty arty.
Yeah, we are, really.
Yeah.
We're all very musical, or we all sort of have something to do with words. So it's quite interesting because Mum's a writer.
Joy Watson,
and Dad was a musician. So music was compulsory. We just had to learn 2 instruments. The only choice we got was which instruments would you like. And even then, if you left your run too late, you were handed something. I mean,
maracas or something.
I got the cello because they already had violin and piano and needed a trio. And it was very, very hard to be cool carrying that cello around in those days, I can tell you.
Oh dear. So your outdoor adventures. So you've got Sticking with Pigs, which was the first in what I'm hoping is going to be a series of these outdoor adventures. So that deals with pig hunting.
Yep.
And being sort of alone, a young man alone in the bush, and having to survive by his own wits, really. And then Sparrow. So how did you go about the research for those?
Well, I actually am quite wussy, so playing a rather nervous 14-year-old boy didn't come with too much difficulty for me because I'm often quite scared. I can think, oh, imagine if that happened. Oh, Lord, might fall down there. So then once I imagined up worst-case scenarios to put him in the bush on a pig hunt or under the sea, it was quite good. Also, I do walk a lot, and even walking all over the peak, it's the same sort of, you can almost imagine that dry, crunching grass. And so I could get all those sensory things. But then hunters, pig hunters, spear fishermen, and whichever other hunting I do find, those hunters want to share their knowledge. So if I just asked a question, they always came up with stuff for me. And so like in Coming Home to Roost, going back, I needed to electrocute someone.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So every single electrician I asked had a story. Everyone has nearly electrocuted themselves or knows of something terrible.
What's the best one?
Well, I kind of had to pick the one that best suited my scenario in the story, but it's always distraction. Something happens and you haven't quite followed the protocols. And it was much the same with hunting. When things go wrong, you haven't quite followed the rules. So,
So did you go out pig hunting?
well, not exactly. No. But I have gone and seen the kill, and I mean, it's not that I wanted any gratuitous sort of violence or death, although pigs are a pest.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to encourage clean killing for fish and for pigs, you know?
That's massively apparent in Sparrow, is that there are much commentary about if you don't need it, you don't take it, and how to do it humanely. And yeah.
Because I was out fishing with one of my sons just a couple of weeks ago, and I caught a fish, and it was a centimetre too small. And I haven't caught a fish on a line for a very long time. I was extremely excited. I'm like, a centimetre? And he said, "We're fishing for the future, Mum."
Oh, there you are.
And I just felt chastised.
Yep.
And kind of grateful to him for...
Suitably chastised.
Yeah, suitably chastised, because I would have thought, oh, what's a centimetre? But he's right, you know. We want our children and our grandchildren to be able to fish.
So when you're writing, you know, and they're quite specific experiences, aren't they? You know, they're not universal experiences, pig hunting and spearfishing.
No.
So how important is it that you get it just right, the authenticity?
It's just so important. It's incredibly important. But the spearfishing is, both of those are growing sports in New Zealand. The pig hunting, there's a lot of children, you know, their daily meals rely on parents and caregivers going out and getting wild food. And then with the fish, it's a fabulous way to sustainably fish, because if you don't need it or want it, you don't shoot it. You can just look at it and admire it down there. But then things like a shallow water blackout, I mean, that's just crucial that spear fishermen know about it and take precautions.
Because that's quite a scary moment in Sparrow, and I did find myself holding my breath at times, with the underwater scenes.
I think, unfortunately, writing the book has made me aware of quite how dangerous the sport is.
Which is unfortunate, since Tom, who's your son, he's featured on the cover.
Yes, he's featured on the cover. And also Daniel, he's a very keen spear fisherman. The other two, John's in London, so that's pretty hopeless at the moment. And Chris, we're hoping he'll get involved, but I'm not sure that he wants to get under the water any more than I do.
So did they tell you about their experiences as part of your research then?
Yeah, but also so many spear fishermen.
Yep.
I talked to them and they lent me guns and they put them out on the lawn and showed me how the gear's all attached and how you have to thread the fish well away from yourself so that if a shark comes, it's a long way back, you know.
Gosh.
And then sometimes Tom shows me pictures where a shark's actually eaten his fish in half, you know.
Yeah.
So it's quite extraordinary. And then he went to the Chatham Islands for a, I don't know what you call it, like he was doing some sort of medical thing. So he had to live on the Chathams for a few weeks. And he did that YouTube clip of himself diving. And I saw that a few times. And that's how I started the book.
Oh.
So I took his YouTube clip and thought about what it would be like to be edited. Because kids today, they're always editing clips of themselves doing things.
Yeah.
They've got those GoPros underwater. And
yeah, that's it. Yeah, so that's interesting as well, because the book is set... when I was reading it, I was thinking we are starting in a sort of Hawkws Bay environment, and it could have been Napier, it could have been Havelock, and then we go up to Mahia, and I loved that. I've never been up there personally.
Haven't you?
No, I need to go, because I was picturing the drive up the coast and thinking, well, I know about Mary Ann's love affair with Mahia, so that came straight from your heart. So tell us about that a little.
So my love affair with Mahia goes way back, because I think my grandfather was one of the first white men to ever cross the peninsula on horseback. So my mother and father's families both went there, and mum and dad, or dad proposed to mum there.
Oh.
They went to the dance at the Makatahi Hall, and then actually, if I'm completely honest, my husband proposed to me there.
Oh, that's lovely.
It is. It's been really lovely. Over the years, we used to go up there, and it was a great big busy family of 11. There was never downtime at home, but when we went to Mahia, there was. There was real downtime. And Dad used to leave us up there with Mum, and he'd go back to work, run his pharmacy in town, and Mum didn't have quite the same control over us. So it was heady with freedom.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
there'd be space up there, I suppose, for you all to...
So much space, and then nobody suggested we wear sunscreen.
Oh, yeah.
We just cooked You know, went a lovely leathery brown, and no, it was great. I just remember those days so fondly. And then we took our children there, and over the years I've tried to convince the boys we could go to other places, but they just want to keep going back.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, one other thing that's funny is that there's a particular corner which you will now be looking out for when you go there. And as you drive to Mahi, you come around the corner and there it is laid out in front of you. And we used to call it, we had a name for it, friends of ours call it the Mahi corner, so all the kids in the car are saying until they get there. Then just 2 weeks ago I took my grandsons up to Mahi, and one of them said, "Are we nearly at the Wahoo corner?" I thought, wow.
Yeah, it's another generation.
It is.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love those family traditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you are a musician too, and you've got your guitar here today. We're very excited about that. So how do your artistic worlds collide? Is there much of a connection between your music and your writing?
Actually, I think one suffers when the other's having a boost. So I would have to say that lately I haven't played my guitar as much because I've been so busy with my writing. So yeah, it does seem that one cancels out the other, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But one of the greatest things about the guitar is that I teach, and that keeps me in touch with another whole generation of kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of those children are prepared to be early readers and talk to me about their experiences. Or
oh, brilliant.
there's a lot I learned in the early days for Snakes and Ladders about from a girl's perspective of the ball, school balls. So they'd talk about that, and I'd be able to.
Because in Snakes and Ladders, it is there was a lot of this in the media at one point, wasn't there? That there's the ball, and the schools were banning the pre-parties and the after-parties, but an after-party does occur, and something awful happens. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
I did quite enjoy writing that contemporary fiction. I know The Hunting's a real place for it, but I love those early books too.
Yeah. And just that's brilliant that you've got access to this young generation constantly coming through with your teaching of music.
I know.
To get that feedback, and nobody says that anymore. I suppose. Do you get that a bit?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But also it's a good chance to teach some of those young kids the old school songs.
Yeah.
So they don't die.
Absolutely, and they do love them still. Yeah. So, and yesterday you came to the bookshop, my bookshop at Wardini Books, and we had International Women's Day celebration, and it was lovely.
It was amazing, actually.
That you played your guitar for us. So, what have you chosen to play for us today?
I've actually selected a song by a New Zealand artist called Luke Hurley. So you either know and love Luke Hurley, or some people won't have heard of him, and he's a busker in Auckland. And he must have written this song 20 years ago. And I've always loved it because I think the words are sparse. They're not very filled in.
You like that, don't you? There's a theme emerging here.
Yes. Yeah. So if I could please apologise in advance for my rather croaky voice.
No, I think we're describing it as husky, aren't we? Yeah.
Well, we'll call it a summertime voice.
Yeah, imagine the sunshine. We're barefoot on the beach at Mahi.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So this is called Fait Accompli. Take me, leave me, break me down, deceive me, grieve me, 'cause I'm your clown. And I could take you to a show, read you Edgar Allan Poe, and play you all my songs for free. One night, one day, the clown is happy, and I could love you through the sun, I could love you through the rain. Oh, summer sun, autumn rain, feel no pain. You're beautiful, you're charming, no harm.